Hello and welcome to an evening with comrades. Tonight we have with us the Red Mushroom.
Hello, hello.
We have with us Senna,
Hello.
Pac-Man,
Capitalism is a cancer, and like with all cancers, radiation is the cure.
we also
Damn it, already.
we also have with us Theo.
Oh well, I went through dental surgery yesterday, so apologies if I'm not as talkative as normal.
And joining us soon will be Dip Dap. He's just off grabbing a drink of some kind. And
For the last 20 minutes.
yes.
And Crypto will likely show up at some point too, very stressed out from work.
Yes. We really
The poor
needed
boy.
Crypto to talk about the first topic because in the news recently.
Well, we could
coming
switch
out-
the order around.
Maybe. Coming out of the news coming out of the UK is that yes, the Queen has suspended Parliament in order for Boris Johnson to prevent any negotiating a deal for Brexit. It looks like there's going to be a no-deal Brexit.
Parliamentary
Well, a lot of
coup.
MPs
Nice.
tweeting out that they're going to go to Parliament anyway.
Ah, yes, that was going to be my next question. Is there actually any democracy left in the UK? Because it looks like a lot of people are saying democracy is dead.
Well, look,
In
this is
my
just-
opinion,
this is just-
no. But I'm
I mean-
no expert.
You can't kill what doesn't exist, but
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
a surprising amount of MPs have basically said, me and all of these people are going to show up to Parliament anyway. So, we'll see what that brings.
Yes.
I'm just. Look, the idea that a monarch, like, you kind of think that we should have, if a monarchy, spook that it is, has to exist.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you would think if you were going to try a democratic monarchy, quotation marks, big old fucking quotation marks, you would think it would be something like Denmark's, where it's like they show up to church on national holidays and sing and wear on the stamps and the coins, but like literally have no part in the democratic process at all, or at least very tiny amounts.
Here's the problem
Whereas-
with that in Britain. Right?
The Queen has to approve literally everything.
The problem with that sort of thing, Britain versus, say, Denmark or Sweden, is that Britain hasn't had any large anti-monarchist dissent in the 18th and 19th century, while both Denmark and Sweden have received extensive rioting in the 19th century and early 20th century that have forced them to reform their state structure in such a fashion that monarchs' powers will more and more be relinquished to Parliament, Prime Minister, or whomever. That's my response to that.
And that's true. And I think that's a very, very, well, to be blatantly honest, it's a very clever and calculated move on the monarchy's part.
A pro gamer move, would you say?
Yeah, it's an
I'm going to
absolute
kill you,
pro-gamer move.
TK.
It is an absolute pro gamer move. The main reason why is because the British monarchy is the absolute pinnacle of PR. It's had the best PR of any of Europe's monarchs, pretty much ever.
Mm.
They've been universally popular this whole time, so much so that, plus Britain as a country is almost inherently fanatically conservative. It does not have, like, it is possibly one of the most conservative countries short of the Islamic republics.
Honestly, that's the South.
Yeah, and England is dominated by London. There's no question about it.
Yeah,
I know a
still.
lot of non-Londoner living people who'd be annoyed at hearing that, though.
Well, it's true. You say the same about Melbourne, though.
You got me there. But it's like
It's
Londoners think that England is London, whereas people who live up in the north end of England say, no, that's bullshit. But it seems to be that there's so many people living in London that London will say, we want the entire nation to do this, and it does, and it ignores everybody else out in the sticks, as I think the phrase goes. So if all these people living in London and out in the sticks and whatnot aren't being divided by left, right, liberal, conservative, do you think that we're going to see a new political paradigm of Brexiters and non-Brexiters? Or is it already here?
I mean, those are identical for the most part. The South wanted to... Well, didn't actually want to leave, but now wants to leave in a much higher degree than people in the Midlands and the North want to. Wales and Scotland, notwithstanding, they also want to stay. Talking about England there specifically, not Britain, because you said before. Because those are two entirely different fields if you take Wales and Northern Ireland and Scotland into account.
Okay, so the UK as the whole is very is it divided by like geography then?
I mean,
to an extent, the thing is that they're all fabricated. Those divisions that were created by the English monarchs starting in the 11th century, all the way up to like the 1890s, those persist up until this day, where poor and downtrodden, to a certain extent, were pushed up into the north. People that were uncomfortable to the monarchy were pushed to York or Birmingham or something.
Well, that's the thing. The North has always been a stronghold of working class organisation and anti-monarchist sentiment, mainly because of the coal miners and the industrial workers. Like, it's been a very strong core of working class organisation there.
The Midlands, to an extent, still are.
Yeah, Yorkshire especially.
I think
I'm not convinced that if this kicks off further, that the Midlands aren't just going to go up in a massive union riot.
I think that's a question I should pose. Is it seems like the fight against this specific suspension of Parliament just seems to be right now a bunch of MPs saying, no, we're going to show up in Parliament anyway. Is that really...
No, people are out on the streets right now.
No, there are protests and
people are out on
a
the
judge.
A lot of them. Media's just not covering it.
Okay. So the media response
The only
to it
reason
has been...
you see those MPs reporting is because it's from their personal Twitters.
Oh. So is this like the big societal collapse we've all been waiting for?
It's not a collapse,
Nah.
it's a crisis. And it could get much worse. But
Parliament in a major European country is suspended every 10 years or so.
So
France, Germany.
what has the EU's response to Boris Johnson's epic gamer move been?
Practically zero.
Really? They're just sitting back and
Yeah.
watching?
No. Yeah.
Why do they have to care? Europe doesn't care about any of this. Europe, in fact, is finding this hilarious. Let's not beat around the bush here.
It's like
Boris, as a political entity, is a joke to pretty much everybody.
It's like a man setting himself on fire and then being confused when no one is helping him.
Hey, Zordon! He just donated $2. Thank you, Zordon.
Aw, yay.
a lifeline.
We also have a question from OnlyBro555, directed at me actually. TK Jones, why does the south of a country usually suck? South USA, South Britain, and South Korea. And I assume you mean the south in the US and whatnot. Well, see, the trouble is I can't really answer that because I live in Victoria, which is in the south of Australia.
I can actually answer that. It's
I
due
don't
to geographic divisions that in Europe, it has a very different reason, where in the southern parts were less connected to the Central European hubs and were often like the fringes of empires, and were thus used for agriculture and later major industrial development. This is especially exemplary in the US, where many of the northern states, actually most of the northern states, became free states, abolishing slavery. But their economy still relied on slavery. So that was concentrated in the South, which was basically the toiling works. In England, that's a bit different. In England, that sort of area would have been the Midlands, where that produced a sort of opposite effect, but that's just because generic agriculture just sucks in general. The South is generally the more rural area because geographically southern parts of larger land masses are filled with more grasslands, while the north are filled with forests and mountains and the likes. There's a lot of building materials, while the South is usually good places for agriculture when you're talking about naturally divided geographic positions.
So do you think because of all the history of like London making the rest of the UK subservient to it and its oppression and so on and so forth, is this Brexit crisis gonna kick off a second independence referendum for Scotland? Another?
They're gonna damn well try.
Oh yeah. Here's the thing. This is mostly based off of what Crypto has been telling me, so pardon me if, in a sense, I'm speaking for him. But, basically, it is most definitely gonna fucking kick shit off, because think about it like this. Boris Johnson has already threatened to go ahead and put troops in Ireland.
Oh.
It's not crazy to assume he'd want to take similar forceful measures against Scotland. And here's the thing. Scotland is overwhelmingly pro, no, we don't want to be around. People want another referendum. Very overwhelmingly. They want out. They don't want this Brexit shit. They don't want to go down on the sinking ship, essentially. And, yeah, the thing is, they're going to try. Boris Johnson has actually straight up said that he is not going to let them.
Huh.
Which, given his plans for Ireland, to me strongly implies the idea that if Scotland tried to go independent, there would be violent repercussions.
There's an
which,
there's an interesting electoral map as well with the first independence, or the recent independence referendum, where all of the Remain people were out in the country, and then oh man, this is a bit embarrassing. What's the capital of Scotland again?
Edinburgh.
All right in the center and just around Edinburgh. That was where all of the yes to independence.
This may surprise you, but much of the countryside in central and southern Scotland is gentrified by Anglos.
Yes. There's a reason the sticks tend to be very conservative, and it's very different from the reasons that the sticks are a very conservative place in the US, for example. Because over in Scotland, those kind of out-of-the-way places are very heavily gentrified by, fucking British people, your shitty Anglos, because, it's just this very wonderful, idyllic little place. Wouldn't it be nice to place 1,000 identical homes over this ancient castle? That's the mentality going on there.
Santa, never do that again. Please don't.
Well, don't give me a reason to, and I won't.
Oh, God.
Right, stop
Your accent is too good, honey.
Right, stop that. It's getting very silly in here.
Oh, pip pip cheerio! I'm so sorry.
Oh, please die.
I'll be right back.
I want to. I wish I could, buddy. I wish I could.
I will be right back on that note.
Okay, baby.
Of all the notes to end on, god damn.
Well, since it's looking more and more likely, what would a no-deal Brexit actually look like? Because I've been trying to explain to my friend IRL, my friends in real life, what a no-deal Brexit would be like, and I think I can only sort of paint a conjecture picture of it, just because, like, oh, no deal, that means like nothing. They're a brand new country to the EU, but is it to that extent?
I mean, it's hard to say what a lot of things in it will look like, but what I can say for certain is that it will be like a horrible clusterfuck. Like, I think that's kind of a given, but yeah, it's gonna be a huge fucking mess.
Because I did see someone commenting online, so it's anecdotal, that they might actually have to close the Channel Tunnel.
I mean, I don't know for sure if they would do that, but I'm just saying right now I wouldn't rule out the possibility. It's plausible territory, if you ask me.
Dip Dap in the comments section, because he's not here right now, says he says it will be fire, death, economic turmoil, Tory on a throne of skulls. I mean,
skulls for the skull throne.
Yeah, I don't even think he's wrong, really. Brexit is going to be such a crisis that people that are protesting in the streets are actually going to start. I reckon they're going to start revolting in the streets, because not only is this going to kick off the precedents for an independence movement in Scotland, but also Wales, Northern Ireland. We're gonna see little smaller townships or even larger cities like Edinburgh or Glasgow saying, right, that's it. Even if Scotland says we're gonna stay in the UK, we're not. The Newport upon Tyne or such example city is just gonna be like, no, that's it, we're out. We're independent. We declare the Soviet upon Tyne. That's it. Or at least I hope
what did I miss?
That'd be nice.
Oh, what did I miss?
Oh man, the Soviet upon Tyne. The workers' Soviet upon the Tyne sounds like a great idea. I mean, yeah, let's be honest. Even so, like, really, I do think that Brexit will kick off something seriously beautiful in terms of, what's going to happen in terms of, how to put it? Like, accelerationism. It's just going to be fantastic. I can't wait. I just can't wait to see what happens.
A lot of
smashy.
A lot of unmanned nuclear power plants in the UK. Shit. Well, I guess
Nuclear pump produce as much power as 12 nuclear plants in 12 seconds.
Well, that's my plan. I don't know about you. Collectivized Trident. Set it off.
I think
Why not?
only Bro has the best little cap off to this topic. He says, pre-Zoomers. I like the British monarchy. Post-Zoomers. What's a British monarchy?
There won't
Pretty
be
much.
one.
Yeah.
There will not be a monarchy.
I guess we've said all we can on that one.
What's a British monarchy? Well, I can explain that quite succinctly. Imagine 7 stuffed skunks in a sloth costume, and you make those lead the country for a millennium and a half. That's the British royal family.
Ah, yes.
All right.
Well, she's right.
Now they're German, so it's basically the same thing.
Should we move on to the next topic then?
Sure.
All right. Just before we do, I want to remind everyone to like and subscribe, because when you do subscribe, you get a little notification in the window. Look at that, Comrade Eastern Marshlands says just subscribe. That's right, we've subscribed to ourselves.
I love.
Happens every
You know
week.
what I love?
Yeah.
The fact that Dip Dab has been getting a drink for 32 minutes.
Well, you see, he wanted a glass of milk, but he's gotta actually get it fresh from the cow.
Alright, he got a milk cow.
He lives in the deep
Yeah, clearly.
south. He's got to find himself a nice cow.
I actually completely forgot he was in the South when I said that.
Oh, hello. Here he is.
Hello.
Is he here? Is this it?
Wait, no, he
Dip
just.
Dab, you were.
No one rhymes with queen!
Do you have fun milking a cow? I have to wonder.
I forgot to make dinner.
Forgetting.
So he forgot to milk the cow. Look, I'm gonna be an obnoxious cunt, okay? Just let me.
Alright, so what's next, topic-wise?
So, we've got as we all know, the Amazon fires are raging and burning deliberately.
The West African ones too. Don't forget about the West African ones.
Oh!
Yeah, don't forget about those. Those are,
Yeah.
just as important.
So
Those ones.
are the ones in West Africa also deliberately lit, or is it just one of those natural phenomena?
Look, I'd say it's likely, given the prevalence of just goddamn multinationals. And even if not, it doesn't matter because another carbon sink is on fire.
They're not doing anything about it, so they might as well.
Jesus.
Here's the thing. The West African ones, I'm telling you right now, it's the Dengists. They're contributing.
It wouldn't shock me, honestly.
That's East Africa, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Dengists have a very good reason to have with this, because then they get to, start selling fresh air to other parts of the world instead of just the big cities in China.
Yeah.
Oh,
French
no.
Chinese people get to make more pollution bricks.
I know exactly what they're doing. I know exactly what they're doing. The reason
They're
why the
raising the
Dengists...
productive forces.
No, even better. They're doing what fucking Crassus did in the Roman Republic. They're burning down Africa so they can then buy it at a cut rate.
Oh god. Well, speaking of money being involved in all of this,
The Chinese are going to sell us fresh Chinese air directly from Somalia.
so the article that I've linked in the description, I think it's the right one, talks about how $22 million has been raised to help fight the fires in
Yes,
the
by the
Amazon.
world's 7 most rich countries. Hold on.
That's my town
Okay,
GDP.
Hold on. That is 14% of the budget of the B movie. That's
Clearly,
not a joke.
We don't
That
need
is
the Amazon rainforest, but we do need Barry B. Benson's Venus. I don't know.
I think one of the weird things is Bolsonaro, the cunt that he is, has rejected the $22 million to help fight the fires.
Oh yes, he has.
You know what's even weirder? Macron, contrary to being the sitting president of a major power, did not know that Bolsonaro was, rampantly seeking to destroy Brazil's natural resources.
They want to kill. They want to kill the
just
indigenous
didn't
population.
know. He just didn't know.
They want to use the fires to clear out the indigenous population and then fucking log the rest.
I mean, the Americans did the same thing with
Yeah.
natives living in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Burned down forests that forced them further west and further west. When they caught them at the west coast, they killed them.
It's such a weird liberal thing to do, where you're almost just grabbing handfuls of money and literally throwing it at a burning tree. This will work. Just
You know what this is like? You know what this is like? This is like sending donations to Holocaust victims to Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Not that, and just making sure that the donations are as minimal as you can possibly get. Although in the case of your energy, that's actually a better thing.
I think one of the better responses to this Amazon fires was something that's already I think been in the works planned is on September 20th. They're trying to worldwide have a general strike for climate action. Already that seems like a better step and a better thing to do than trying to literally just give money to Brazil.
Yeah.
I suspect
Give
though,
Bolsonaro money to burn more fucking fires.
exactly. I suspect though that this strike on September 20th might be run by Extinction Rebellion.
oh no.
Well, hold on. Who is
Wait,
it?
here comes
One of
Mushy.
their original, is it coming from them, or is it like a general confederation of trade unions? Because it's international, right? So the thing with Extinction Rebellion is that while the international branches will follow, generally, the directives laid out for, a major action, such as this, it's usually, pretty... I don't know, local branches have different compositions in terms of who's part of them and what they decide to do. And yeah, I'm just interested because I'm not sure. I don't know.
From what I've seen so far is that September 20th it's general strike for climate action, and IWW of so-called Melbourne are supporting it, but they aren't the ones running it. Which is why I suspect that Extinction Rebellion has their grubby little hands all over it.
Yeah, fair.
I just don't like them. I just really don't.
No, neither do I. But
None of us like them.
It's they manage at least to galvanize people to some extent, and
yeah, but they also are handing over boatloads of protesters to the cops. On average, that is the entire thing they've been doing.
Funnily enough, we had there was a rally that they held. It was one of the school strikes here, and we had one of the keynote speakers on stage say to the entire crowd, because they were planning later in this year a series of actions and whatnot. All of you prepare to get arrested. No joke. That's what this woman said to a crowd of perhaps over 500 people. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
They're so not trustworthy. I honestly think they're some kind of a psyop.
I understand why Crypto said that they're probably a psyop now, because their only goal seems to be just to get people arrested.
Oh yeah, no, they are just that.
They're blatantly transparent about it, and the issue is that agitated liberals who don't really have the understanding yet to know that that's not right, that's not a goal, what the fuck? It's basically just a honeypot for them, and anyone who's such a noob to leftism that they really think that, getting arrested can make a statement. It's literally just trying to get rid of these people and put them out of political activism before they become radical enough to be. That is honestly what I believe the whole point is.
The one on September 20th.
The CIA employed similar tactics during the Cold War.
Yes.
No, but
and here's the thing. This sort of thing has happened before. Once again, as Theo stated. So, and especially because You know how effective what they did was at like crushing left-wing opposition in the US in particular. McCarthyism fucking thrived. It killed the left. We're still
And it never
recovering.
died.
Yes, exactly. And it's only starting to lose a little bit of its hold now that we're having people who weren't born while that was still a fresh thing that was happening. You can best bet they're gonna try it again.
Look,
we need to look out for that shit.
Fair enough, and no doubt, like that, the secret services, once stuff like this does get much bigger, they obviously do intervene in respects. And obviously, you've all heard my critiques of Extinction Rebellion and whatnot. But what we're trying to do here, at least some of my comrades down here in like Victoria, Melbourne, and whatnot, it is at least think of ways in which we can use some more radical rhetoric or something into what's happening, because that might then, I don't know, is it worth, because I'm unsure as to whether it's correct at this time to provoke a split or to try to provoke a split
Between
I
who?
know that between people who say, I know in Britain there's a group which is a green anti-capitalist collective who broke from XR and who are doing their own sort of thing. And then there's XR, and then there are still socialists in XR, but then also lots of other people in XR. You see what I'm saying? So is it, yeah.
It'd be perfectly
a
fine.
split between like liberals from liberal activism, or what?
That's the problem, isn't it? So XR is more so which puts together like everything.
If Extinction
More
Rebellion,
liberals concerned with climate activism. So I mean, is it worth like specifically distinguishing ourselves in that respect outside of this movement?
If Extinction Rebellion,
The Earth Strike in 2019. What?
Let her
if I can
talk,
say a
please.
thing. Mashi, let me pose to you an analogy. In the 1960s and 1970s, people were put basically before the choice of, well, leftists in the US were basically put before the choice of we stay in the Communist Party, which has most certainly been infiltrated by a lot of CIA agents, or do we split off?
Mm-hmm.
And
No, I
the
know.
decision
Yeah.
to split off was the right one in the end, because it allowed a small movement to survive throughout the Cold War.
And you already had the splits beforehand with like the various Trotskyist things, but like I agree with you, and it's not as if I'm fully committed to this like umbrella organization. It's just that when talking to a lot of like activists and whatnot on the ground, it's a very open question here, especially given the fact that here in Australia it operates, and you know, with each like locality and whatnot, with each nation it's obviously different. So because in Britain I'd say it's a bit far gone, you know, that's kind of like the cesspool of XR, but here I don't know, but I absolutely see what you're saying. Probably be more inclined to side with you over.
You know, the problem I think is that if we're talking about leftist activism, I would heavily distrust anything that uses any sort of, you know, organization structure, memberships and whatnot.
Yes, that.
And especially when it is centralized and has like specific goals for protests set out by a few individuals, which, from what I can tell, is what is being done to an extent with these, hey, let's get arrested bullshit things. And leftist activism historically has literally just been a bunch of people deciding, hey, let's show up there, just fuck with them.
Yeah, your best bet for leftist organizing is very horizontally run, smaller local groups, not this like global mass movement thing that's very top down. That's and also another thing to keep in mind is that they have a presence in pretty much every major like big rich white nation out there, like
XR, yes.
and they've kind of just sprung up out of nowhere and become this big thing, and I'm telling you that's no coincidence. They're not something you want to fuck
I know
with.
it's no coincidence. I was talking either 2 weeks ago or last week about the fact that they are actually like propped up by non-governmental organizations concerned with a specific program concerning a quote-unquote transition to a Green New Deal or some such other thing like that, right? I don't think it's viable, right? I don't think it's viable. But the problem is with social movement is that there's always like pushing and pulling between the base and like the top. So while, there
is an established solution to that problem, being that, this isn't, as I was trying to say earlier, this isn't even me being, anti-party or whatever. This is me saying that when you have the organization of large movements between, like large protests rather, between, lots and lots of different little things, little people rather, little organizations. I'd be very wary if any organization is trying to take control of the proceedings of the organization. Like a party from...
Don't trust non-profits, don't trust for-profits.
Oh, no, I don't.
Like, a party can attend such things, but they shouldn't lead them as...
The party is not supposed to lead. The party is supposed to be the aid of the class. Yes. Because classes make revolutions, parties make reorganizations, if they lead it. Which we can see in the Soviet Union with post-NEP era.
Well, the thing is, what I agree with most of what's being said here is, to meme this up still further, I think that Extinction Rebellion really is Continental Pro 2 Electric Boogaloo, really. That's what it is.
In a sense.
I agree with you there.
Yes.
I'm so against it because I see the writing on the wall. This is a trap. This is straight up a trap. And the fact that they've sprung up all over the world, seemingly out of nowhere, is no coincidence. Like I was starting to say earlier, all these big governments of the world, they share all their snooping information with each other and they coordinate accordingly. This is most likely a group effort on all of their parts, and no doubt that they change a bit of the way Extinction Rebellion behaves in certain countries in order to be most palatable to someone who doesn't have their guard up.
So,
in 10 to 15 years, we're going to be reading articles about how certain members of such and such group had ties to the FBI, the CIA, the MI6, or even the MIS in Russia.
I should say that Libcom, although I'm not like a massive Libcom reader, they did put out a fairly decent 3-part critique of XR. The first was like the active practices in terms of arrests. So I recommend having a look at that if you get the time as well.
You should link it to me so I can put it in this in the
See if I can find it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the question that you raised a little while before, Mushroom, is should we split away from XR? It seems through this conversation that yes, definitely.
Yes.
We should.
I suppose we are not part of them to begin with.
Exactly. Yeah.
I found it.
So even if even if Extinction Rebellion isn't Cointel Pro 2 Electric Boogaloo, their tactics and goals, one, don't really align with what we, socialists, communists, anarchists, so on and so forth, want, nor do they want to actually alleviate us from the horrors of capitalism. They want like.
No, that's true, but I see the case being at least, some of us participating, and I don't know how many of you have, in like their like marches and demonstrations, etc., etc. Just to talk to people, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Because I feel as though the danger with creating a split and then not having a base there is that it could just like sort of fit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we should.
My
So
question is what you
waste our-
consider to be a base.
Yeah.
Well, some kind of large-ish, and I know that size isn't always, in terms of like groups, the most important thing. But no, actually, I should reconsider what I'm saying, because even if split was to be provoked and you had a separate, that group could still participate in these actions, just be more upfront about its aim
What we
and
don't
where
want
it
to
diverges
do.
from.
What we don't want to
XR.
do
It's
is
a good
split
point.
off and create a group that's like anti-XR, and all they're doing is trying
Nah.
to attack XR. We don't want to waste our time.
Oh, no.
with
My
that. We've
stance
got
is-
more
my
important
stance is-
things to do.
My stance
What we
is
are gonna
should
do-
ignore them.
What we are going to do, guys, is we're going to do what I like to call a pro-Trotskyist move and split off from a party we're not even a part of. Fuck it, we're splitting on the free block. We're going to split because we
People's
can.
Front.
Like, I definitely
People-
believe that if the subject comes up, you should warn people that this looks shady, because
No.
It
Whenever
absolutely is.
someone,
but like
Someone wants-
no, we should absolutely not make it our goal like, oh, we got rebellion. Like, no.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
we need
But
to
no, I
focus
can-
on
I
the
can
bigger
see-
picture, because that's also something they want. They want us to waste our time as well.
So when
And let's not give them the satisfaction of that.
So when it comes to something like people raising $22 million for the Amazon rainforest, how do we approach this? How do we first let them know, like, that's not the right thing to do, and then what do we say to them is the right thing to do?
letting the capitalists and governments of the world know that a thing we should be like. I mean, if it's like, I'll give you an example. We've got a blockade coming here, Mark. It's a conference of the most lavishly housed and just like all the porkies, right, congregating in one place. We're gonna blockade the shit out of it. So, if that's what you mean by telling them what they should be doing, then yes, tell them. Like,
Yeah, fair enough. Yep.
they're not gonna. Yeah, they're not gonna listen to a letter.
Oh,
We're
yeah,
going to write
like-
you a letter telling you how
Of
angry
complaint.
we are.
Oh, a strongly worded letter. That's very important.
I know that's that's not what you were saying, TK, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that what we specifically can do, like, us not living in Brazil, the only thing we can really do is go to the Brazilian consulates and embassies and protest there, occupy them. That's the most we as Brazilians can do. For Brazilians,
Yeah.
Basically.
help shut down these targeted, arsony. You can go riot, you can go sabotage the construction processes in the Amazon. And personally, going back to memeing, I wouldn't be too unhappy if someone happened to accidentally arm a few native groups.
Oh yeah,
That'd be nice.
Email does
EML does not advocate
Gotcha.
sending arms and ammunition to the native people in the Amazon forest. EML does not advocate that. EML does not advocate
What?
making
See, whoopsie, I
contact
dropped an AK-47 in the Amazon.
Or several thousand. What's the difference?
EML does not advocate
Yeah,
making
I
contact with
mean,
the Bolivian,
here's the thing: if you drop two
transportation industry.
AKs into the forest and leave them alone, they will breed, and then you will have an endless supply of AKs. Oh god, if
That's the
only.
AK-12. That's for the AK-12, right?
When two AKs love each other very much.
I think a little complaint I have actually is like there's so much shit going on around the world. I don't know what to protest.
Focus
really.
on.
Yeah.
Well,
The climate is pretty much a central issue. I'd argue. Yep, just
Yeah.
It is very
that's the
central.
important one.
Central. It's just you also can't like forego literally everything else. In
No, and you
favor
don't
of it,
have to.
We
You
kind
don't
of
have to.
need.
Oh yeah, it's just.
okay.
I'm not
Can I say
advocating
a
that
thing?
anyone like focus specifically on one issue. It's just you can only stretch yourself as one person so thin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
you
yes,
can
as
only,
one
you can
person.
only keep
Yes.
doing shit if you have air to breathe.
Hello, can I
Yeah.
say a thing?
Yeah.
Yes. I think that the ideal thing to do is, well, commit your activism to the thing that you can most tangibly contribute to.
Mm.
Say if you live in the US and there is something going on in Texas, you can contribute to that more than, say, something that's happening in London. On the flip side, I can contribute more to something that's happening in Paris than something that's happening in Beijing, and so on and so forth.
Speaking of Beijing,
Mm.
Beijing.
Segway.
So I take it we want
Oh,
to
dear.
move on to the next.
I think the official EML stance has been made. Don't fuck with Extinction Rebellion. They're a fucking psyop. Give people AKs and fucking have a nice discussion with Jair Bolsonaro.
High velocity
Yes.
discussion.
And by discussion, I mean skewer him and roast him over an open fire
Verbally,
and slap him.
verbally,
He's
verbally,
also advocate
verbally,
violence.
verbally.
Yes,
Email does not advocate
basically
violence.
just do that metaphorically in a rational,
Yes.
skeptical debate.
We'll verbally
Indeed.
Send
give
him a
more.
politely worded letter of complaint.
Do you ever,
No,
do you ever
politely
stare
worded
at-
letter form. Much
You
easier.
are
Send him,
pee-pee
send him,
poo-poo man.
send him
Be gone.
send him a strongly worded letter and some white powder.
How about a
do you ever look
strongly
at-
worded
Yes.
letter bomb?
Is
Do you
it
ever-
cocaine? Is it anthrax?
Do you ever
Who
look at-
knows?
Who
Only
knows?
one way to find out.
Do you ever
Yeah.
stare at
that's
Bolsonaro
it.
and then just think to yourself, an RPG has an effective range of 300 meters?
EML does not have a
EML violence.
Okay, let's move on from that. And I just want to remind everyone that we have a donation link down in the description.
Buy our shirt.
Yes, there's the shirts that actually support Crypto, who's on his way to.
Ooh, only Roas.
Yes, whenever he recovers from folk night at a bar hell.
Yeah.
What's the arc in the Hong Kong anime this time? It's ramping up, boys, because we're about to have that June 4th, 1989 type beat come on in like fucking Hong Kong.
What are you talking about, Dip Dap? That
What
day
do you?
does not exist. That day does not
Nothing
exist, Dip Dap.
Nothing happened.
We're imagining
Exactly.
things.
I said
Nothing is happening.
happen.
Everything is
Nothing's
okay.
gonna happen. Nothing's like it's gonna be a normal day, like in
Okay.
like June 4th, 1989
Hold on.
in Tiananmen.
Oh,
What?
I'll tell you what happened.
Nothing ever happens in
Productive
China.
forces
Everyone
would-
knows that.
But productive forces though.
Hold on,
Yeah.
Mushroom. What were you saying?
That's
It
what
fasto.
Just saying happened on that fateful day was that the productive forces were built.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't
Exactly.
understand.
Productive forces.
So, to try to catch all the listeners up. By the way, don't forget you can donate at the link below. There's an example donation. Comrade John donated. Thank you very much to Example John. Previously, we reported on Eastern Marshlands, Evening with Comrades, that there were armored vehicles of, or like
Last week on Eastern Marshlands.
Last week on the Hong Kong anime saga, there were armored vehicles on the border of Hong Kong. But now,
You're
apologies,
in the border.
apologies for the Vice News is reporting that these Chinese armored vehicles have rolled over into over the border and into Hong
Hmm.
Kong, which is
And
why.
don't worry, guys. Xi Jinping said it's just a normal military exercise. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Nothing
a
gonna
live
happen.
fire exercise on civilians.
Yeah. So
Well,
like
they're
a
not
thing that's
really
something like a
civilians. They're just American sleeper
CIA agents.
cells.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the word. That's what it is.
all 1.8 million people are CIA agents. In fact, they are all agents of the CIA.
So
Indeed.
So normally, Hong Kong since 1997 has had between 6,000 and 10,000 troops at any time. And they're rarely seen. Very rarely seen, and are only there to be called on by the Hong Kong government in an emergency situation.
But as we know, emergency situations never happen.
They don't happen in China.
Yeah.
Those haven't happened since 1948.
So here's the contrast I want to bring up though. We have protesters in Hong Kong flying American flags, singing the American national anthem. Not all of them. There are examples of this, but they don't represent the majority, I don't think.
They don't think so.
Yeah, and as soon as a Chinese soldier on the border farts too heavily, everybody is reporting on it. Like, what's China up to in the response to the Hong Kong protesters? Updated a minute ago. We've got live coverage all around the world. Yet, when 200 million comrades in India go on a general strike, nothing. We hear absolutely nothing.
When 7 districts in Hong Kong go on a general strike,
how could
nothing.
you?
Well,
You monster! Sorry.
Hey, look, I just we've established the nature of I think the protests. We know we don't like roughly where.
PRC hates nature.
PRC hates nature. Yeah. No, where was I going with this shit? Go on, keep talking. I'll come back to my thought.
Okay, so apparently there's also a website by the Chinese government that is offering protesters money to snitch on other ones.
Oh boy.
I think. Okay, so let's see what is happening right now. I'm reading this off Wikipedia, and the source is from Rotated. It's from Reuters. On 29th of August, the People's Liberation undertook a troop rotation for its garrison in the city ahead of a planned pro-democracy march in Hong Kong. Mainland Chinese state media and Reuters described this troop rotation as a routine, and Asian and Western diplomats had been expecting it. And the rotation sparked, according to multiple sources, concern and speculation.
Look.
And there's also been, since the 28th, there's been stuff coming out about maybe committing sexual violence against protesters in prison.
Oh
yeah. Hold on. One minute. I'm sure that's true. But then we also should mention that. Have you guys seen the live stream of China Daily Reporter being like brutally beaten for like hours on end by these people? He's a reporter for the China Daily. They accused him of reporting on behalf of the Chinese government.
I know.
This guy was not a soldier. He was not a police officer. He was a reporter, and certain elements within this protest, like, brutalized him. So
now,
while we may support the protests in terms of
critical support,
seeing,
again, I would like to reaffirm my position. I do not support Beijing, and I do not support the protesters. revolutionary defeatism. Nothing's actually going to be coming out of this, so fuck them.
I
It's
only
just-
support
yeah.
them as far as just the basic them giving the PRC trouble. I support that.
Go ahead,
I
Marsh.
support them to the point that the Hong Kong bourgeoisie supports the Chinese government invasion.
Go ahead, Moshi. Finish your thoughts.
Yes.
So we're basically all in agreement here. I was just going to bring, we can't forget about like the kind of rampant nativism of like some of these people and like where its roots lie in terms of
But
the
this is the
history.
same thing as with the Yellow Vest protests in France.
Yeah,
It's
true, but
dipshits
like
out there. But is that enough to...
different as well. It's, you know, like the Yellow Vests in France, well, largely
That doesn't-
had... Sorry, go on.
No, I rarely quote this text because it's just bad. But, actually, never mind. I forgot where I was going with this.
To quote Zizek, may we live in interesting times.
Okay, I'm just gonna throw this out here. I'd like you all to publicly donate to my GoFundMe campaign, Dab on the Dengists, because, ladies and gentlemen,
Dab on the Dengists. Hell yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Fuck 'em.
It's gonna kick off. I'm waiting for nothing to happen in Hong Kong. Look, I know I meme
think we
about
all
it.
are.
I know I meme about it all the time, but I'm genuinely seeing that accelerationism in this case is a viable thing purely because the worst shit around the world is visibly and tangibly getting worse. And the worse it gets, the angrier people are. And that's going to make some...
Gonna keep getting worse all the time.
That's going to make for some interesting revolutionary developments. Mind you, the Hong Kong thing has the ability to spill out into another massive condemnation of the PRC, because you know they're going to do it. They're going to do it.
It does, but like
They're gonna do it.
After I did some research into, and one of my previous points was that this solidarity between mainland workers movements and that of the most progressive elements in Hong Kong. But the problem is, like a lot of these Hong Kongers blame everything on ordinary mainland Chinese. Like a lot of them. Like it's not because there are a few instances, and this is obviously sentiment which is drummed up by like the major media moguls in Hong Kong. There's a Hong Kong equivalent of Rupert Murdoch. I forget his name, but like big like they were full
big man.
Advertising campaigns. They called them locusts. They called mainlanders locusts in like public advertising campaigns. Like they're taking our like baby formula and shit like that. That was a huge scandal.
Is this where that footage of protesters attacking people in airports?
That wasn't protesters. That was gangs. That was like a fucking mafia.
So, okay,
yes.
so gangs
If everyone in the group ganging up on someone is wearing a white shirt,
So yeah, no, that's a triad. That's a triad.
Okay.
I suspect it would be, but it's just a very.
That's not just the ordinary protesters either.
No.
Well, no. The triads are hired by the police in Hong Kong.
Yes.
Oh boy.
A lot.
That's what I love. That's what I love about Asia and organized crime. They just like you've got the mafia in Italy and the mafia in the US, and it's just like, yeah, I mean you're good, I guess. You're kind of like criminals. Well, that's fine. But then you've got the triads and the yakuza, and it's just like, bitch, you are little baby.
I mean,
don't
you
forget.
don't forget.
The Yakuza were the first people to respond to the fucking tsunami in fucking Japan.
Yeah.
If you want to go back even further, Chiang Kai-shek recruiting big-eared Do in 1927 to like massacre hundreds and thousands of trade unionists and communists
in Shanghai. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not just in Shanghai and the surrounding areas. Throughout all
or
of
if you
China.
go back even further than that, you go to the Roman Republic, where the Senate would hire the collegia, which is basically the predecessor to the mafia, to enforce law and order because their own troops and prefects couldn't do it.
So what we
So organized crime is fantastic, isn't it?
Basically, what Hong Kong is just really, really murky, and we shouldn't romanticize it.
Yeah.
We really shouldn't.
It's so
Oh
It's-
no, I
murky.
was never
Yeah.
arguing that.
Take-
Um,
Hong
I know.
Hong Kong and China, like urban China, are where you take the really, really sci-fi elements out of like cyberpunk. The world you get is Blade Runner without the cool shit.
pretty much.
Hong Kong is so murky that dipped up in the chat. You've said that Trump said that Xi can handle it.
She can handle it himself.
Yeah. So if it does kick off Tiananmen Cubed, Tiananmen Square 2 Electric Boogaloo, where nothing happens, what kind of international response will there be if even the US isn't wanting to get involved?
There can't be. There won't be
There
because
won't be very much at all. There,
Well,
other than
everyone
like, oh,
relies
this is
on China.
horrible. Like that's it. They're just gonna whinge about it and then go
Yeah,
home.
they're just gonna whinge. They're not actually gonna do anything because they rely on China for everything already.
it can't. There's an interesting like intersection too, because now with them forecasting a recession in 2021, like most mainstream economists now, we're gonna have China is going to be more vital in like making sure that the world economy remains even slightly stable. So like condemn them for their human rights violations? No, because like
They
world
need it.
economy,
They need them.
Yeah, it's
The global capitalist order requires China to sustain itself because of all this shit. And I know the dengists are going to be like, oh, the good capitalists in fucking China, they're not capitalists. They're... No. No.
Just no.
Stop being like an NEP fucking dumb shit. Like, productive forces, bruh.
Oh,
We've been-
may I read off a little thing real quick that's tangentially related because I know it will upset
Sure.
the tank. Oh god, what the fuck? I thought I still had it. Hang on, let me get it up again real quick. I know how to find it.
We wait with bated breath.
Scroll. I hate Twitter.
What a wonderful day to walk down the road. If I ever stop singing, I will explode.
I think as
I
soon
love
as we
you.
stop getting news out of Hong Kong, that's when we know all the tanks have rolled in.
That's when you know that
Yes.
you stop singing.
Hey, guys, that's when we know that everything's blown over and nothing's happening.
What?
It'll be fine, guys. Come
Oh
on.
my
So-
God,
Support
Thomas, bury that
Support
weak
Comrade Xi
attitude of yours.
Jinping.
Someone's rattling a chair in their room.
I
can't
think
tell.
Senna wants to
I-
read
that's-
something.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Oh, there, I found it.
Go ahead.
Now, I will introduce you guys to a concept you may or may not be familiar with: the 996 working hour system.
Oh, boy.
The 996 working hour system is a work schedule commonly practiced in the People's Republic of China. It derives its name from its requirement that employees work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days per week. A number of Chinese internet companies have adopted this system as their official work schedule. Critics argue that the 996 working hour system is a flagrant violation of Chinese law. Let's see. Let's go on and see if that's true. The Labor Law of the People's Republic of China states, Chapter 4, Article 36, the state shall practice a working hour system wherein laborers shall work no more than 8 hours a day and no more than 44 hours a week on the average. At least 40 companies, including Huawei and Alibaba Group, have implemented the 996 schedule or an even more intensive alternative.
Mm.
Curious.
Now, if I may, oh, hello.
tank moving sound effect too.
Oh.
I can hear that.
Thank you.
God.
Why is
All right.
Alright.
If I may read out a couple choice replies to this because they're just too beautiful to pass up. This is actually American propaganda. Not a single laborer has not been exploited in China in the last 20. Not a single laborer has not been exploited in China in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Interesting. Those nets under the
Freudian
windows of
slip, Freudian
Foxconn
slip.
factory. Can I finish? Those nets under the windows of Foxconn factories, they're so the workers can practice parkour safely during their many breaks.
Yeah, like
Oh, and this one is the American report. Listen, if the government makes you work that hard, it's tyranny. When private companies make you work that hard, it's freedom. If the government tries to stop private companies from making you work that hard, it's tyranny again. It's all very simple. There
600
you go.
IQ.
I'm done narrating shit. I hope you enjoyed.
I've just been informed. Unfortunately, crypto actually cannot make it.
Oh, baby.
Get some rest there, crypto Milad. You did good tonight at wherever it
You'll
is.
need it.
Yeah.
Yes, get some sleep, cutie. I love you.
So does cutie love my boyfriend? That's so adorable.
夜下无方当爱的民中国，
I will
夜
literally
下
kill
无
you,
方
Peter.
当。
I will literally commit homicide on you.
中国
Well,
Ah, gotta love him. Gotta love him, don't you?
Crypto had a little topic that he actually wanted to mention, but we really need him to take the lead on that. I think actually
Yeah.
we've said all we can about Hong Kong. Perhaps that might actually be a good time to wrap this up.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
fair.
because we all know that when we're gonna have nothing to talk about, absolutely nothing to talk about in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, nothing will happen at all.
Alrighty.
Okay, next topic.
No.
Anything else?
The next topic was the one that Crypto was supposed to take the lead on, but he isn't here.
Oof.
Yeah.
Hold
I
on.
was going to what's happening in northern Syria at the moment?
Oh,
Because I've
oh
heard
my God!
some
I just
Turkey's
remembered. I
doing
saw something
shenanigans.
about Israel making a missile strike against Syria and Iran.
What?
Wait, what?
What?
Yeah,
What?
I've only just remembered.
Excuse me.
Thank you, Zordon, for the $2.
Oh, yay.
I saw something.
Thank you for the $2, woo!
Okay, so I saw something on
Oh.
Twitter reporting that Israel had made some kind of strike against areas in Syria and Iran. That's all I saw, though. We're all furiously Googling right now.
Israel strikes target Syrian military positions, and missile strikes on Syrian military positions intensify.
Oh. Oh wait, the Israel-Iran shadow war escalates. Ah!
Here we go. Here we go.
The first drone war pulls Israel's conflict with Iran out of the shadows. Oh my God. Okay, so oh God, a Hezbollah member got killed by it.
Oh no! Could you
Here we
link
go,
us
guys.
Could you link us that article?
Oh,
Woo! Okay, fellas, it's happening.
Get me all the
dear.
news articles. Seeing as Batco's retired, everybody get me all these news articles. It's time for a happening video. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Thank you,
Alright,
Zordon. Thank
happening.
you.
Israel zeroes in on Iran's Soleimani. I don't know Arabic or Persian, so. Netanyahu hails Israel strikes against Syria to foil Iran killer drone strike. Israel says airstrike in Syria sent no immunity message to Iran. Israel bombed Syria, says strikes thwarted imminent Iran drone attack. So Israel is saying that this was to stop an Iranian drone attack
Oh boy.
by the
Yeah.
Iranian Revolutionary Guard elite QUDS force, Quids force. Again, I don't speak fucking Arabic. I speak Mandarin.
Okay,
So the US,
US
has roped
voices-
Israel into making a
Syria.
preemptive strike against Iran because, according to them, Iran was going to make some kind of strike against them. And this is
I think that's yeah.
And this is a few days after a bunch of ships were seized in the what's it called? The Strait of Hamas? Is
Strait
that
of Hormuz.
Yeah,
Hamas.
Hamas.
So-
Strait of Hammuz.
That's the thing. In the Middle East, especially in the Levant, Israel is, say, the long dick of the American law there.
Israel is the big dick of the American law.
Thank
Pretty
you again.
much.
Okay,
Thank you again, Zordon, for the $2. There it is.
okay, guys. All right. So,
Yes, you
so
can.
I'm
Zordon.
reading
Trans
this article.
rights.
Can I get a trans rights from Dawn? Trans rights!
Yeah.
Hey!
What were you saying, Pac-Man?
I was just going to say I'm reading this article right here. US voices support for Israel as warfares rise in the Middle East. Israel sought Thursday to justify a recent wave of strikes on Iranian-linked targets in 3 countries by pointing out
Ooh,
to an accelerated Iranian effort to supply Hezbollah in Lebanon with tools necessary to acquire precision-guided missiles.
Oh,
Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Kornikus stopped short of admitting that Israel had carried out the strikes in Lebanon and Iraq, although it had previously acknowledged that bombing a target in Syria over the weekend, a base that Israel said was preparing a drone strike on Israel. The accusation against Iran came amid signs that Israel has expanded to Iraq and Lebanon a long-running campaign of airstrikes in Syria aimed at preventing weapons deliveries to Hezbollah. Hezbollah has warned that it will retaliate for the strike on last weekend on a target in Beirut's southern suburbs, prompting fears that in Lebanon that any further military activity could quickly spiral into a new war that might also draw in the US.
Get ready
Okay,
for
but
the IDF to
here's the good part.
the Golan Heights.
Here's the good part. US officials on Thursday indicated that they had not discouraged Israel from expanding the scope of its military activity.
Forever war.
Of course they had. Oh my god.
Oh,
It is-
boy.
it is-
Can I get a forever war in chat?
It is
The
our
Nazis
position.
flipping off.
Third imperialist war! Yes, God! Holy shit. Okay, revolutionary wave incoming, boys. Recession in the next 2 years. Third imperialist world war. Oh boy!
It is our position that Israel is only acting because of Iran's actions, said a senior US administration official. If Iran was not pouring heavy weapons and fighters into Israel's neighbors with the purpose of with the express purpose of threatening Israel, I don't think Israel would be needing to take these actions. Okay, so what's happening here, guys, is the United States is basically about to kick off a fucking proxy war between Israel and Iran, and let's just say, boys, I am so fucking excited.
And we
The third imperialist war. The third international imperialist war.
Here's the thing. We found out about this because I had a brain fart about remembering seeing an article of some kind on Twitter. And we're only talking about it just because I remembered it. There isn't actually that much coverage about this, I don't think.
Yet. Next week we will have the entire thing, unless they scoop it under the rug with the third imperialist war actually breaking out, which then we will have our celebrate. Come on.
This is
Hey, Peter,
What?
are you ready for a limited nuclear exchange?
Oh, yeah.
Oh god, Israel has the bomb. Oh.
So
Yes!
doesn't Iran most
Yeah, it does.
likely have the bomb.
They got something.
Here we go, guys. You ready?
Dirty bombs for sure. I don't know if they have an actual nuclear warhead.
Pedal to the floor!
I can-
Accelerate! Let's go!
I can hear that. Pac-Man, Jesus Christ.
Eurobeat
Oh my
time.
God.
Eurobeat time. We're accelerating. The dialectic is moving out of control. Ooh. I love it. I'm excited. Oh, man. Happening.
It's happening, boys.
I'm so happy, you know?
So should,
It's just gonna be great.
should
I mean,
we-
if I'm gonna bring us back to reality here, a
Yep,
lot of
go ahead,
people
Mushroom.
really die. I was just gonna say, if I am bring us back to the from the heights of accelerationism, a lot of people are likely to perish.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only people
Yeah,
the people that are
Mm.
going to be hurt
including us.
in this exchange, whatever it is, conventional or nuclear or just drone strikes or whatnot, are civilians and workers and probably innocent soldiers that don't even want to go to war. This conflict
Vietnam
is
too.
only going to hurt the people that we, the left, are trying to help.
Oh, but
yeah, so celebrating this happening to them is always a bit of a bad look.
well,
I think
I'm
when
just
we
gonna-
do this, we're celebrating more opportunity to, like,
Do
it's a
something.
double to do something,
I'm
but then at the same
aware of
time,
the
it's like,
intent, but the thing is, a lot of people
Yeah.
aren't going to read that way.
I will throw Lenin's letter to the soldiers at everybody. Where if this situation, every time the material conditions shift in this way, it's going to cause huge economic problems for the whole planet if this kicks off. It's gonna because the Strait of Hormuz is the #1 channel for oil to Europe and the US. Okay, or at
China's
least
interested
Europe.
in it as well, incidentally.
Isn't
Yes.
was it Egypt as well?
A conflict
Yeah.
over
Well,
this
Egypt's
area.
the US guard dog of the region, so.
Well, yeah.
If Israel kicks off, as weird as it sounds, because they're a US ally, you're going to see Israel, Kuwait, Iraq, and versus Iran, and Saudi Arabia versus Iran. And considering the naval forces and stuff that the US has in place, anything that happens there is going to shut the Strait of Hormuz and the Suez Canal.
Yeah, probably
It's going to-
Suez as well.
It's going to cripple the world economy, and the recession is going to be 10 times worse than anything that we're going to see before. If nothing else, this will prompt some form of revolutionary action, or at least some growth in revolutionary action. We could also see another thing. We could also see a huge united backlash against government. Because
An anti-imperialist movement, you say?
exactly.
Yes.
I am going to say, consequently, with Vietnam, we saw it as well. If this thing kicks off, what we are going to see is we're going to see a huge movement in our sphere, the Western sphere, against conflict, and that gives, and as leftists and anti-imperialists, that gives us a very good opening. And of course, there is the ultimate end, which means that if it does kick off properly, we're going to see the thermonuclear extermination of the human species, which
Ambitious.
arguably, considering how damaging we are to the environment, the Earth will reset itself in a couple 100 million years, so we'll be all dead, and it'll probably be a good thing overall. But anyway, moving on. Long story short, there are silver linings in every situation. Nothing.
Brandon Renard in the chat says, okay, so that region is basically the main region for exporting oil. The US is now energy self-sufficient. US will be fine. US is not going to be fine. Their infrastructure is crumbling beneath their feet.
Our infrastructure
Oh,
has
yeah,
been
no.
updated since fucking Eisenhower.
Yeah, they're about to drop into a massive recession. The Dow Jones is like teetering on the edge of just dropping to 1,000 points. Not dropping 1,000 points, dropping to 1,000 points.
8,000 points.
Yeah, yeah.
What was the last drop? 800?
The last drop was about 600, wasn't it?
Ooh,
I
800,
believe
I
so.
thought.
Yeah, I'm talking like it'll
Well,
drop
there was
20,000.
the 800. There was the 800 this month,
Yeah.
and then the rise back up, and then a 600 drop again.
Yeah, the US loves oil. It loves producing its own and importing a shit ton of oil because they
More of it.
consume so much of it. If they lose like a single drop, they lose their shit. So to go to war, or if there is a war or conflict near the Straits of Hamas, it means that they won't get a barrel of oil coming into the US, and the US will lose its shit. But it's not in any place to do anything about it because it's crumbling beneath people's feet. The
Yeah,
upside to
America
that,
is,
the silver lining that Pac-Man was talking about, is that a lot of people in the US are taking actions that a union would take. There's coal miners that are blocking a coal train from moving because they haven't been paid. And they were like, "Oh, so which union are you with? Like, we're not a union. We're just here forming a picket." Like, wait, hold on, you're not a union
I support
yet?
that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh yeah.
So, lots of different the Burgerville union, they're doing some good action as well. All the workers throughout the US are actually like the labor movement is waking up in the US because the US is such a
It is
shithole.
slowly.
Okay, but here's the good part. And here's another one here. On news, CNN has just released an article. The Dow Jones Index logs the second worst month of the year. The economic, all the markets around the world. Like if you look at the Dow Jones Index, so you look back in the 1980s, right? You look back at the 1980s and the 1970s. You can see like all the markets of the world. They're going up and down as normal. But like it's sort of like this smooth, gradual uptick in just little setbacks, and then a bit of a drop, and then what we're seeing now is up, bang, up, bang, up, bang. You're like crash, and ever since 2008, it's just been perpetually unstable. And that
instability is getting worse.
Another
as time
factor
goes on.
to throw into this mix here is that tit for tat tariffs have not stopped. So,
oh boy,
like between Canada and the United States, that's still going.
Yeah.
What's
escalating? I don't know.
Brandon Renard responded as well. He said, "Okay, fine, as in finger quotes, fine. They won't collapse into the dark ages, is what I mean. We aren't returning to Fallout levels." You got a point there.
Yeah.
Like
Not
the rich,
immediately,
the
definitely
rich
not.
and
But
the government, they're gonna be fine. But the people on the grounds, the workers, they're gonna be in the shit. They're not gonna be able to get their water from the pipes. Essentially, they won't be able to buy bottled water because their pay will be cut.
Running water in the 21st century.
Exactly.
What are you?
It's just like that Dropkick
look.
Murphys song,
Yeah, no.
the workers' song. They're the first ones to the fight, and the
To
last
starve,
ones.
first ones to die.
Exactly.
Yes.
Last ones
it.
to get
And
the pie in the sky.
Look, all of us here. The sad truth is, even the more petite bourgeois members of this conversation right now, dab. All of us here within the next 30 years or so, it's a pretty safe bet that if things carry on the way they are, pretty much all of us here are going to be in poverty of some kind.
They will carry on the way they are.
That's it. All of us in this chat, all of us here right now talking, within 30 or 40 years, all of us are going to be facing significant economic hardship.
I guess I'm listening too.
And unless we fucking do something.
Brandon Renard comes back with the mic drop. He says, "What? Americans can't have water?" He never laughs in Flint.
Laughs in Flint.
Yeah. You got me there. That's good.
I think
fucking Flint moment.
I guess we're kind of out of steam, aren't we? Have we got anything else we want to talk about?
I think that might actually be a good point to wrap up.
Why don't we did we add some hope in at the end there?
The hope is that workers of the world are really understanding the world that they are in, and they're understanding that their fellow worker is the person they need to organize with. Union membership, at least in Australia, appears to be going up. Class consciousness is spreading, for lack of a better term, like wildfire, because people are asking themselves, why isn't Bolsonaro fighting the Amazon fire? Oh, it's for profits. You've got a point there. Tell me more. There's people that are saying, like, oh my god, in Australia, Labour and Liberal, they're so bad, they're just like each other. What options are there? Wait, you mean we don't have to have parliamentary democracy? There's other options? Tell me more. It's spreading. The good thing is spreading. The class consciousness is spreading. What we have to do now is get people communicating,
to use it,
coordinating, and organized. We gotta get
and a very
together.
important part of that is going to be trying to be aware of what's going on around us, not just in the sense of like current events, but also in the sense of like, I wonder if this organization that's claiming to have all the answers is really going to be any good at all. Because here's the thing, this is the calm before the storm, not just on the economic and general political front, but as far as the left. This is our growing phase, and pretty soon the governments of the world are going to try and stop that. And they will get as down and dirty as possible, and we need to be on our toes.
I'm gonna wait for ASIO to come
Otherwise, it will be crushed just like last time in much of the world, and the rest of it will just kind of fall to revisionism or just out and out collapse because some guy really liked Pizza Hut.
Okay.
Gorbachev!
Okay, so I'm gonna leave on happy news in that. Yeah, I agree. Brandon Renow in the chat, bring on the nukes, my man. Yes, bring them on. I'm still going for my plan that I hashed out with Comrade Communicator from Posadas Rebel News. We should nuke the ice caps. If we do that, we accelerate global warming and thermonuclear war at the same time. That will give us the biggest chance we have of destroying capitalism. But in all seriousness, no, TK, that's not the union to join. The reason why you need to join a union is you need to join UWU. Because UWU is official.
UWU is officially a thing. Who's got cars in the background?
That would be Theo.
Okay.
I think Theo's outside.
No, just house doesn't
Thin
stop
wall?
loud noises very well. Yeah, thin walls.
United Workers
Trust
Union.
me, when I was over there, anytime a car came, fucking
United Workers Union is where it's at, guys. Just saying. Join UWU. Join UWU because it is the greatest union in Australia. We now have
multiple
150
unions. Join all the unions.
No one strikes harder than a multi-carder.
Also, one last thing. Sorry, Pat, go on, and then I'll do the one last thing.
Nah, UWU.
I was going to say, an update, because Pac-Man and TK Jones were at the big trades hall conference thing, where we set up a bunch of working groups here. So, an update on that. It's going really well. We've had our first meeting, and we've organized some actions in solidarity with the tram drivers and stuff.
Oh boy!
So yeah, this is looking promising. Just like, and want to get involved. It's like you don't need to be part of a specific union. I'm a representative for the IWW as part of this general like trade union initiative. But yeah, I don't know. I think they might have something on their website, or if not, get the Discord, speak to me. I'll fill you.
I could speak to Australians. You've probably got, if you're in a larger city, you've probably got a trades hall that you can get in contact with, that you can organize with. If not, there's probably a We Are Union group in your area, especially if you're in Victoria.
That's what they are.
That's the thing. I'm supposedly going to set up the South Australian branch, and I have no idea where to start. The only rules I have is I am not going to collaborate with the SDA. That's a bad hit.
That's a whole thing.
Have they've actually given you that job?
Well,
gonna
that's
start
the
it?
thing. They told me like, unions is a Victorian movement, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, is there any presence in South Australia? No. I'm like, well,
Time to
guess
start
I'm
it.
Time to start, yeah.
I need to get in contact with other if I need to get in contact with other Adelaide Union members, and I'm gonna need to find out some.
Adelaide
So
Trades
I need to get some contacts. I need to start one. We don't have one. I need to.
You don't
I
have a
need to
trade
go.
school?
I don't think so. I tried googling it.
Damn!
Oh.
Get a trades room and then start from there.
I need to start talking to some union members in my area. I need to find union delegates from other unions. Like, the only problem is South Australia's union density is not as good. But anyway, it's not
I
anything
think all
like
this
Victoria.
is a conversation for another time. Maybe. Does anyone else have any
Yeah.
last plugs?
Yeah, we've
fair.
kind of been going on and on.
Who should we subscribe
Shut
to?
up.
I think
Me.
I don't have any.
Subscribe
my
to
Instagram.
Pac-Man for anime content.
Follow
Yes.
my Instagram where I do politics shit. I'm
What is
putting
that
it in the
Instagram,
chat.
Dipdap?
Put it in the chat.
Hammers.n.hose. Nice. All right. Well,
Follow Theo for eclectic angst posting.
well, I think if that's everything, I want to give a big thank you to everyone who liked and subscribed and who donated, especially to Zordon, big man Zordon, donating to the pizza fund. Thank you so much. It's not just the pizza
EML
fund.
stand.
It goes to SoundCloud and storage and so on and so forth. I want to thank everyone in the chat for joining in, and a special thanks to the Red Mushroom, Senna, Pac-Man, Theo, Dipdap, and apologies to Crypto. Get some rest, my dude. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Yeah.